Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Arup K, Chatterjee, and you are watching my podcast. I'm joined by my friend Dr. Amit Ranjan.
Hi.
And we are shooting in his office in NCRT. Amit, how have you been?
Good.
So, Amit is somebody I really look up to. Amit is a well-noted author. He is the author of a book, widely received book on John Lang, and his next book on Dara Shikoh is in the press. And today we are going to discuss about the 19th century, and we are virtually going to launch this new segment on the 19th century, and we want to discuss why the 19th century is all the more relevant today. Would you like to share any initial thoughts?
Thank you so much, Arup, for coming over to Red Food over here. Both of us share our love for 19th century, and it goes back a long way. And 19th century is very relevant to our times, I think, because 19th century is the heralding of modernity, and the shadow of it is on us all the time. And we are mediated by colonialism, not just colonialism, a lot of things that were happening in the 19th century. Colonialism is a reductive term, I would think, but all things that happened in 19th century, modern education system, railways, democracies, wars, modern warfare, racism, good, bad and ugly, all that we face today.
Right.
Not just that, the way we understand tradition is also mediated by 19th century. What we see in Konark Temple or the temples of Khajuraho, our medieval social culture is not very well documented. We know the political history but not the social history. So what we think of as tradition has the shadow of Victorian tradition on it, as well as other influences at that point of time. So there is a heavy hand of 19th century on us all the time.
That's a very interesting phrase, the heavy hand of 19th century, or the long 19th century. Now, my first book was on the Indian Railways, and it's in many ways a book which I have never really finished, although I've literally published two. But you are very right in saying that this is an ongoing journey, and we are still understanding the impact of the 19th century on us. You seem to be hinting at the fact that Victorian culture seems to have selected, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that what you really meant? It seems to have selected a lot of models of knowing India for Indians, by Indians, but not made by Indians exactly. Is that what you were trying to say?
Surely. For a lot of what we know about our own ancient culture comes from 19th century. It's not a continuous knowledge system that we have inherited. It's mediated by Indologists like Max Muller, William Jones, and these are just two big names, but many such people.
Including John Lang, do you think?
Absolutely. John Lang is a much forgotten figure.
Right. And let's talk about him.
Sure. John Lang is a very interesting figure from 2 points of view. Why? So he is a white man fighting the white empire.
Okay.
So which seems like a freak show, but it's not. He found resonance amongst the Indians because as an Australian, he was of convict origin. People of convict origin were treated as second-class citizens. So what we in English call caste, or Hindi, Jati Vyavastha. So clearly he was a lower caste person in Australia, and he had this great angst against the gentry, the zamindari of United Kingdom. And so he found resonance with the oppressed people of India, and so he aligned with them. And as a lawyer, he fought cases only of Indians against the British.
Right.
As a writer, he wrote against the British establishment. As a journalist, he lampooned the military and the legal systems in India. So that resonance he found with the Indians of fighting against the zamindar. That's one point. And the second one is his fight against colonialism, as any good humanist would do. you could use the term humanist. He just took on a good fight against the empire, and also, like, today we segregate the activist versus the elite and so on.
Right.
John Lang was all of these things. He was an activist, while at the same time he made a lot of money. He led a good life while he went to the jail as well. So the kind of categories we have now did not exist back then. Even the memoir is part fiction at that point in time. So I'll give you a very good instance of him harassing Lord Hardinge, who was the Governor General, by writing a piece against him every single day. And so Lord Hardinge summoned him and said, "What's up? Why do you write against me every day?" And so Lang asked Lord Hardinge, "My lord, why have you come to India? Have you come to earn money?" So Hardinge said, "Sure, I'm a poor man, I could do with some money."
Yeah.
And Lang said, if the Baron of Kilkiran, or wherever he was the Baron of, if the great gentry of England needs to earn money, then surely a poor caste man of Australia needs much more money. And the money can be made by lampooning you much better than praising you.
Yes.
So Hardinge was very pleased. He invited him to be a state guest in Shimla and so on. So we can also see the power of the journalist, the writer, the poet in the 19th century.
I was just wondering what would happen if the Lord Hardings of today were to be lampooned. I was just reminded. I don't know. It's not related.
Yeah.
No relation to Lord Harding, or maybe there is. So recently we had the inauguration of the Pamban Bridge,
Right.
and with lots of pomp and glory. But the Pamban Bridge, which is the second Ram Setu, as the British used to call it,
Right.
is a 19th century invention.
Right.
I've written on how I've written an entire book on it, but I've also argued in multiple articles that this would not have been possible virtually without the epic Ramayana, but at the same time a very distilled version of the epic through 18th and 19th century eyes,
Right.
which is the long 19th century.
Right.
In other words, what you were saying sort of resonates with my perception, my understanding as well, that it's not as if 19th century views of antiquity, ancient India, were wrong or ideologically motivated through and through. But surely it was a perception and not the entire truth, and there was a selection involved.
Right.
And so the Pamban Bridge, when we celebrate, these monuments, which we have the complete right to, but at the same time we forget that the foundations are colored, that the foundations have the heavy hand of the 19th century, as it were. Now that brings me to your next very important title, which is forthcoming, hopefully this year, by the end of this year, which is Dara Shikoh.
Right.
Do you find any kind of shadow of the 19th century on Dara Shikoh?
A shadow of 19th century on practically everything that the world view that we have today.
Okay.
So since you mentioned Ramayana and the Pamban Bridge, let's also talk about Bhagavad Gita.
Mm-hmm.
So in Dara Shikoh's time,
Yeah, it was translated by Charles Wilkins in 1784.
Right. In Dara Shikoh's time,
Yeah.
Dara Shikoh is a big translator.
Yes.
He owned the biggest translation school of India. Let's
Right.
say. He translated 52 Upanishads, Yog
Yes.
Vasisht,
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita, several other texts.
Absolutely.
But for him, Upanishads are at the top.
Exactly.
Bhagavad Gita comes somewhere down.
Yes.
Which tells us that in mid 17th century, in the 1650s, till 1650s, Bhagavad Gita was not the prime text as we think. It's been a continuous prime text for thousands of
Okay.
years. So the Indologists, especially the Christian Indologists, found some resonances between Krishna and Christ in terms of a powerful single God-like figure, which is not the case of a very...
Allow me to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Now this would seem like fake news or WhatsApp University. You're very seriously saying, and you're a serious scholar. You're saying that Indologists, you're not claiming this, it's the claim of Indologists, I'm guessing in the long 19th century, who saw certain epistemic
Right.
resonances between Krishna and Christ. That is what you're claiming, right?
Yeah.
You're not claiming that they
No,
two
I'm
are
not
the
claiming.
same
No,
individuals. Yes.
It's the Indologists, why
Yes.
they gravitated towards
Exactly.
Bhagavad Gita more than other texts.
Right.
So earlier you would see this Dashavatara, which nobody talks about.
Right.
Dashavatara is a very important text in the 16th century. In 17th century, it's the Upanishads. And later it becomes Bhagavad Gita. So it changes according to the worldview of the scholars of the time. And Dara Shikoh himself has a resurrection, like Shakespeare has a resurrection in 19th century. Dara Shikoh has a resurrection because he is the one who took the Vedas to the West, which very few people know.
Yes.
And Upanishads.
Vedanta to the West,
Yeah.
actually.
And therefore the Vedas,
Yes.
as an extension. Before that, very few Western scholars knew about the Vedas. So he translates the Upanishads into Persian, which is a big deal.
Is it true, Amit? Because I've heard this, and I may have even claimed this, but would you like to correct me that it was Dara Shikoh's translation that in Persian read Germany, and that is how Hegel and Schopenhauer get to know.
The documentation is very clear.
Okay.
So, and it is the Pandits of Banaras who translated. Obviously,
That is
Dara
right.
Shikoh, the crown prince, did not have all the time.
That is right.
He
yes.
proofread,
Yes.
he is footnoted, and which is a big deal to found a register for abstract nouns,
Right.
to translate Ishq into Prem and so on,
Yes.
Prem into Ishq,
Yes.
and so on, is a big deal to form an abstract philosophical register. That's his contribution. So Frenchman Antiquel Duperon translated into French, which never got published, into Latin, which was accessed by Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer to Goethe, and Goethe to German Romantics, to British Romantics, which is why you see negative capability in John Keats and so on. But I'll tell you
That's
a
very interesting.
I'll tell you a very funny
Yeah.
story to end this thing about Dara Shikoh.
Yeah.
So Schopenhauer raved about Dara Shikoh, not just about the Upanishads. He was very well aware where the translation is coming from. And he said it is the will of the nature, despite the diseases and the wars, to live, to love. And that is the message of Upanishads, as against Hegel's materialism, which he called Pankam. And so both of them were at Berlin University at the same time, somewhere early 19th century. And Schopenhauer threw a challenge to Hegel. Let's see who gets how many students. And so Hegel got 100 students, Schopenhauer got 5. And Schopenhauer retired with his cats and dogs. But the influence of Schopenhauer we can see.
Yes.
Despite not having pulled students at that particular point of time, he was a heavy influence on the German Romantics, and which has shaped the entire Romantic movement of Europe, which goes back to the Bhakti Sufi movement of the subcontinent.
Right. Just a tiny clarification. So, Amit, you were saying that according to in Dara Shikoh's canon, the Gita was slightly lower than the Upanishads,
It
but
may
this is not.
also have been due to his own worldview of
Could have
promoting
been,
Upanishads.
and it could also have been. I'm just hazarding a guess. The Upanishad, for example, which was commissioned by Akbar, it may have been the influence
Definitely.
of that tradition. But just to correct, so it's not as if we are claiming or I'm claiming the Gita
Not at
is
all. We're just trying to tell you the history.
In the Vedantic tradition, at least for 1400 years since Shankaracharya, the Vedanta is constituted by the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. So that's one type of canonization. Dara Shikoh may have had a different type of canonization.
That
And
comes
Amit-
from what Akbar did, what Akbar
Probably. So it's not as if we are claiming that certain texts are higher than certain others. That wasn't the claim. But thank you so much, Amit. It's been a
Thank you.
wonderful agaz.
Definitely.
And if the agaz has been such a bright afternoon, I hope the Anjam would be much more splendid. Thank you for hosting me, Amit.
Absolutely.
And,
The 19th century is so deep.
yeah.
And it's an age of writing, let's say, because everybody from housewives to soldiers, everybody
Okay.
wrote something.
Yes.
So there's so much to talk about as we
Absolutely.
get deeper into this podcast later.
Absolutely.
Agaz will take us places.
Great. So ladies and gentlemen, we hope to see you. I hope to see you in my podcast, and Amit will be joining me hopefully very frequently as we journey through the very, very long 19th century, which in Amit's words, and I concur, has not yet ended. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you.